Thank you.
All right, welcome everyone. My name's Jeff St. Laurent. This is the Tuesday live show, and my wonderful guest is waiting eagerly, and I'm just waiting as eagerly as well. I'm looking forward to this for a while. So let's get into that in a second. I do record all of my live shows. I put them in my university at sellingcoaching.com. I help coaches transition to a full-time business. This is one of them. So it's very exciting to see how it all plays out. So I have a ton of great information in there. As you are on that journey to going to full-time. If you want to start off right on the homepage of sellingcoaching.com, you can enter your name and email and get my great resource, Launching Your Coaching Business, the First 3 Vital Steps. That's also going to put you in my community so we can stay connected and you can get some great information from me on a regular basis. But now what we've been waiting for, Donna Star, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show.
I know. Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Yes. So this is really cool because we're off the heels, and I'm coming right out with it. We're off the heels of you launching your book. Let me get the full thing in there in the picture. Unsuccessfully Successful, which has been a year or so or more in the making. And I was sitting at my desk last night, and I was going through the book and reading some things, and I was thinking, and I was emotional, and I am so proud of you for the things you've done and the journey you've been on. And so for people tuning in, I just want to take a snapshot because in my success stories, because now I've been doing this for, mentoring coaches since 2015. So we're talking 8 years now. I'm getting more people like you, my students who started off with, a handful of years ago, who are now like, they're doing it and they're producing results. And I love bringing people like you back. So coaches who are at the beginning stages, like where you were when we started, can be like, oh, I want to be like Donna. That's what I want them to see.
Well, I want to be like Jeff. So that's just so you know. But the 4 years went by so fast. And maybe some of that was because it was COVID. But in general, it went by so fast. And I could not have done any of this without you.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much. So when you started this journey off, you didn't, and this goes in the email that you wrote, right? Like no clients, never had a business before, never did workshops, never did groups, never wrote a book, and went to coaching school, graduated. We worked together. I'm gonna get past the intro piece because I can send people to the other intro video that you did. Started working on the business, been doing it full time. Let's bring it to the space where now you're doing this full time. You're deciding to write a book. Talk about your business and what's going on now, not from a beginning stage of like, I have no idea what my niche is, but from now I'm doing this. I'm earning money. This is my full-time gig.
Yeah, I always wanted this to be my full-time gig. So there was never any question for me because I had given my notice after 34 years. I was ready to do something new. So we won't start there. But started off doing one-on-one clients. Then I added group coaching. Then I added workshops. Then I partnered with another coach and built a corporate leadership development program. And then I was writing biweekly emails, which I did because of you, because you're like, you really need, your fundamentals. You were helping us set up our basic fundamentals. And you're like, you need to have a community and you need to own that community as opposed to social, because we don't know what happens with your community. So you were pretty, and I don't know if your story's changed since then, but you were pretty you were like, you need to own your email. Yeah. And you had said, you need to send out 3 emails a week. That's what you recommended. And I was like,
I was a little aggressive when I started off with people. Now I start with
3 emails a week. I just came from corporate. People are drowning in a sea of emails. And plus there's a healthy amount of fear in me, because I had no idea what I was doing. So I agreed on every 2 weeks. And I've written an email plus every 2 weeks for over 3 years. Wow. And that is what got me on my book journey, because people were like, oh, I like what you write. And then I started writing more on LinkedIn. And in the beginning, I was hesitant to write on LinkedIn because I was like, oh my God, that's my community, because I have 30 plus years in the talent acquisition, HR tech space. And then I was like, I'm doing it anyway. And then you and I talked about the book, and you gave me sort of an outline, and I followed it, but I couldn't do it on my own. I just left to my own devices, which is why I love coaching. I was straying. So I joined a program that really kept me accountable. And, but you got me started on my book writing journey by facilitating me writing to my community and growing my community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's not an easy thing to do, right? We laid all the structure for you, right? But then it's the discipline of it all, right? So it's great, because what I loved about you is you're always great at finding what you need, finding the help that you need, whether it's by myself or other coaches, other mentors along the way that you've worked with beyond me, the book, the program you joined, so that you can actually, have the structure to get it done.
And apparently I need the structure, but now I write every 2 weeks. Like, now it's just built into me because I do have a corporate background. So like, you used to have me do my spreadsheets to you. I keep track of all that stuff. I mean, you were instrumental for me to build that structure into my new life, because, you go from a corporate structure or a 9-to-5 type of job, not that those really exist, and then you go on your own to coaching, you're in for a huge change. Obviously, that's what you deal with. So I needed the structure.
Mm-hmm. Talk about, like, as with this journey of writing the book, and maintaining your business, right? Because it's a big undertaking to do this. Talk about your day to day. What's the day or a week in the life of Donna Star, with her business, so people get an idea of, like, you're operating a 6+ figure business now.
Yeah.
From the comfort of your own home.
Yeah. I want to back up on that a little bit, because I was cooking on my business and well over 6 figures. And then I had a year that kind of just took my knees out from under me. And so for anybody watching this or listening later, I want to say that life intervenes, right? So you can have this tremendous business, but if you are on your own in a coaching business or any business, you're going to have dips and valleys. So I had some dips because my dad passed away, then my brother almost died. I ended, or at least reconfigured a relationship I'd had for 22 years, and I moved, and I wrote a book during all that time. So for the people that I work with that say, I don't have time, I never call BS on that, but I would say it's a prioritization, like what's most important to you, because the things that matter to you, you will get done. And if I could do it in a year when I, literally lost almost everything, you can do it too. So I wanted to start there. And that did take my focus a little bit off my business, because I was very much focused on the health of my family and writing the book. So now that I'm coming back to that, I hope it's all right that I added that in.
It's more than all right.
I notice, where you put your focus and attention is where you put your focus and attention. So I now, I have anywhere from 10 to 30 clients going at any one time. So I have a healthy one-on-one client, but business, and I offer different packages. So I have that. And then I run a group program twice a year. But my typical week is every morning I wake up and I write on LinkedIn. So I get my coffee, and from 7:30 to 8:30, I brainstorm. So I do not have a content calendar for LinkedIn. I have a content manager for Instagram, but I do my own LinkedIn. And that's important to me because it sets me off on my day. I see what else is going on in the land of LinkedIn, and I contribute. I see what my clients are doing, some of the people that I follow, and then I write. And then after that, either I block off a certain amount of time every day for clients. I block off a certain amount of time every week for strategy. So I have a 10 o'clock Tuesday strategy meeting. What do I want to accomplish this week? I keep a notebook by me at all times. I write down thoughts, phrases, things that I want to write about. And then I always am adding some time in to develop my business. Right now, I'm working on a different group coaching program. And I had multiple ones. And then I spoke to a consultant, and she said, just do one signature coaching program. I was, I think, almost putting too much on myself. And I do workshops. And the newest thing for me is to get into more live speaking engagements, because during COVID, of course, those didn't exist really. Mm-hmm. And so now we're out of that. And that's going to be my focus for 2024. Now that I have the book.
Especially with the book coming out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to echo, I'm glad you brought that up in terms of your pacing, in terms of life gets in the way. It just doesn't get in the way, right? It just, it takes different parts of you and where your focus goes.
And I think we have to honor that. And I think to myself, like if I was still in my corporate career, would I have had the time off to manage my dad and my brother and my moves? Yeah. I mean, yes and no. But I would have had something hanging over my head. The freedom of being an entrepreneur and having your own business is maybe you're not making as much money, but you own your time. And so those are things I think people really need to consider when they think about going full time in their business.
Yeah. So now you talked about your roster in terms of your, starting to talk through your day, strategizing in your clientele. You have a nice healthy clientele. You're running groups twice a year. What's been the journey in terms of the actual activities that has allowed you to get your 30 clients plus that you're working with? What are you doing?
To
That's
get my
actually
clients.
getting
Yeah,
you there.
it's such a good question. I think referrals are still a really good source for me. People refer clients to me. I also have a very consistent social media presence. So I think you don't have to write an award-winning post, but you do want to be visible to the communities that you serve. So for me, it's LinkedIn. It might be somewhat Instagram. It might not be social. Maybe you're more of an offline person and you have to get involved in meetups and groups. Tomorrow I'm going to a chamber meeting. But I think you need to show up. You just can't sit here and say, I'm a coach, now what? Now the business will come to me. And I know you do your program, but for me, it's just being visible and being consistent.
Yeah.
And I do get, like I said, the referrals are probably still a good 40 to 50% of my business.
Which is huge. Which is huge. But before you had referrals, you had to get clients, right? So being visible. So from that visibility, how are you turning that into business, right? So I heard chamber meetings, I heard visibility with LinkedIn. It sounds like you've dialed in your presence and really focusing on LinkedIn.
Right.
How are you turning that into business?
Yeah. So the consistency alone brings people to me, like, oh, I might write a post on, I think one post I wrote about was that I had dreamed when I was in my corporate career of being in the hospital so I could rest. And I got an onslaught of people that were like, oh my God, you felt the same way, or that I couldn't digest food in my thing. I've done, but more specifically, I would say I've done workshops. I get clients from my group program. So I look at that as a sales funnel. So yes, we make money in group programs, but generally at the end, someone wants to spill over. A couple of people want to continue coaching. So everything that I do, if I do a free workshop, there's a follow-up. If we do group programs, we offer continuation programs. If I do writing on my emails, there's an opportunity to work with me. So always be selling in. I'm fairly subtle about it, but there's always an ask somewhere. And I did work with a LinkedIn coach because I was in the beginning embarrassed to ask. I was like, oh, people aren't going to read my stuff because they just think I'm selling. But he had a formula that was more like, tell your story, because I'm a good storyteller.
Yeah.
Tell what's in it for them. What results did you have for your clients? And then do the ask. So I actually had to change the way I wrote on LinkedIn, and that really brought more people in. And then part of my standard operating procedure is to get a recommendation on LinkedIn once a client finishes. So I probably have 13 or 14 referrals recommendations on there. And people really look at those. The last woman that hired me in California, she looked at some of those, and that's why she hired me.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's like multi-pronged.
It is multi-pronged, right? It's never one thing. And that's why I was looking in your book, because one of the things, not the first thing I looked for, but I always looked for like the call to action. And it was page 177, chapter 15, let's continue the conversation. Right. And it's being in front of people. It's putting things out there, which opens up conversations. Just like before we went live today, right? We talked about the book a little bit, which I want to get into as well. And we just talked about a book, and we said, really, a book's just another tool for opening up conversations.
Right.
That's all it is.
Right. And the program that I was in with the book, so I'd write about a scenario. What's the lesson in there? And I've had a lot of people emailing me and say, I see myself in your book. I see myself here. You know, so you're right. It's just another conversation. My thing about being a coach is I want people to know who I am, because there are about 8 gazillion coaches out there. At least it feels that way, you know, especially on LinkedIn and possibly on Instagram and Facebook. So there's a lot of emphasis on the coaching industry to find your niche and be clear in your messaging. And I think be clear about who you are is equally important, if not more so, at least from where I stand.
Absolutely. Let's start to talk about this book.
Okay.
So the journey of the book, and you started a little bit earlier, you know, from LinkedIn. People, you know, you liked writing. Talk a little bit about the motivation and the journey that you went on.
I think I always wanted to write a book. I think a lot of coaches do. And I wanted to do something I had never done before. I wanted to push myself so far out of my comfort zone. And the reason I was able to do that is because of you, because I was writing those biweekly emails. And it just became much more natural for me to write. And then I realized that people like what I had to say, because my biweekly emails are not like newsletter. They're kind of like a situation where I share, and then they're usually pretty short and sweet. And they're very often fairly emotional. I don't know, like I've written a lot about grief or
They are.
yeah, they're not like, I just write about what's in my head and heart. Honestly, I don't plan them very well.
And I'm going to pause you right here. I'm going to put this in the chat for everybody, but definitely go to our website. I think actually, if you type in donnastar.com, but also dstarconsultants.com, get over to our website and subscribe to her community so you can start seeing this, because it's very important to start to see what other people are doing to help you find your own voice. Keep going, Donna.
No, so my goal with it, you have editors through the program that I was in. I wanted my story to have a beginning, middle, end. So there was my upbringing, and we all, you know, in coaching, we spend a lot of time thinking about the who, and the who is because of how we grew up and what blocks or ideologies we bring into our life. So I thought it was important to examine that. I didn't dwell on that too much, but I have that. And then my corporate life, which was the largest chunk of my life. And now that I'm on the other side, you know, that's why I want to be a coach, because people kill themselves in corporate, and there's just a different way to operate. So I felt like I had a beginning, middle, and end, and I just wanted to fill that in and to help people if I could.
Yeah. And so the journey began, wrote the book, just came out. What is it, last week or the week before? It
came out in May, and then for the e-edition, and then it came out in print in June. So pretty new.
It's very new, yes.
Yeah.
What's been the response so far for you in terms of now like holding the book for the first time, people obviously getting the book?
I am overwhelmed. Literally, I'm trying to hold back tears a little bit, because a lot of the people that I worked with or that I've known over the years who have read the book were like, oh my God, like a woman I worked with 20 years ago emailed me the other night, and she said, oh my God, I worked with you. I was afraid to work with you because you were a workaholic. And I had 2 kids and you had 2 kids, and I couldn't believe how much time you spent away from them. But I realize now why you had to make those choices, because I have more insight, and I chose a different path to be a stay-at-home mom. But you were somebody I always admired. And even though I was afraid of your energy, when I worked with you, I realized that there was nothing to be afraid of, that I was inspired by you. And you never put your belief system onto me. And she literally wrote me almost a book. And I literally was sobbing like by the end. And I've got a lot of people just email me that, because I think I took the risk that I wasn't going to write this book if I wasn't going to be vulnerable, because there's enough books out there that tell you how to survive in corporate. I didn't want to write that book. So I've had really, really good response. I've had 2 people that have said I got that they can't believe I put the stories that I put in a more negative light. And I really was rocked off my I was knocked off my senses a little bit. I took some time to really think. The goal was never to hurt anybody. So I did make some adjustments in the book because I self-published. I was able to update the manuscript, and I did make some changes to the book that rubbed people the wrong way. So I've learned a lot in the process. Be careful when you write a memoir self-help book.
Yeah, but part of it too is when we speak something, and that's the challenge for a lot of people, a lot of coaches especially, is to say, hey, I've got a message to say. And this goes back to writing their first email, right? It's no different. It is, but it's not. It's like, I'm going to write something in black and white, and I'm going to print it, and I'm going to email it. I'm going to get it in a book, and it's going to be there for people to read, and I can't take it back.
No.
And unapologetically, like, this is what it is.
Yeah, it was quite a process. And, when you're writing the book, you're not actually thinking about how's that going to land on somebody, because you're so, I don't know, you wrote a book too, but I was so into getting the story right that I was insulated. And then when it came out, I was like, ooh, this is public now. And you do have early readers and all of that. But overall, I'm proud of what I put out overall. Like, could I do it? I want to write another book. I know I won't make the same mistakes next time. I make different mistakes. But I'm also proud that I talked about grief in the book, because it was such a big part of my life and during the writing of the book. And I also wrote about intuition, and I don't see those two subjects brought up very often in a corporate setting.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Talk about the book itself, the storyline. Because I love the title, right? Lessons from a workaholic corporate exec single mother's journey to a life of balance. It speaks volume, because and like you said, the first part, it's your story. It's a personal story, that journey, which is the value of that in this, to be able to bring that out with what we do, is so important.
Well, it's the who, right? Which is the foundation of coaching, really. I wanted to say that the book was going to be called Silly, Silii. Say it like it is, because that is my brand. Say it like it is. And then towards the end, I had to write a little bio, and I wrote Donna Star, because you have to write in the third person, not because I ever talk about myself in the third person, was unsuccessfully successful. And I was like, huh. And my editor called it out, and she goes, I like that sentence. And I'm like, the next time I met with her, I said, I'm going to rename the book Unsuccessfully Successful. So that was a last minute ad. And I think the beauty of that comment is, don't get so married to anything that you're so rigid that you can't change. That is the one thing coaching has really taught me, is don't be attached to the outcome. Just if something moves you, just change it. There's a little less rigid than I used to be in my prior life. So the book is really about my journey, right? Like, I believed, and you worked with me in the beginning, so I probably was still that person, that I had to beat myself up in order to be successful. I had to work harder than everybody else, make more calls. If I didn't have 5 clients by this date, I was a failure. There was nothing but pass fail in my previous life. I'm not blaming the corporate, I'm blaming me. And I'm so much more chill now than I was, because nothing is life or death. I went through life or death during the process. This isn't that. This is like, oh, that doesn't work. What did I learn from this? So every book, every chapter has a learning story in it. Like, what did I learn from that? How could I have handled that situation maybe a little bit differently with today's eyes?
Yeah. Where do you see the book now in your business? Like, now it's out, the writing's done, it's in your hands. Yeah. Like, now there's the reality of, like, okay, I've got a book.
Now I'm changing everything. So now my workshops are based around this. I hired a coach for a signature talk. So now I have a signature TED type talk. I'm changing my website to marry the book cover a little bit, and I'm changing my group programs to marry this a little bit. So everything's sort of morphing towards the book. And I just want the opportunity to be able to talk to people that watch this and just say, my message is always, it doesn't need to be so hard. I promise you that. And that's really what I mean. So you didn't get your email out this week. Like, no one's waiting for it. Just be gentle on yourself, because this is a marathon, not a sprint. Anything is a marathon, not a sprint. And, I think one of the best things that IPEC does is has you teach at the end of the program. But even at that point, we're so green We need a little more time before we really appreciate it. I used to get off the phone with you and hyperventilate. I was sweating when I was on the phone with you because my brain wasn't caught up to where you were yet, you know? So a little more breathing space you were awesome and you helped me, but I just hadn't transitioned yet in my brain.
You got there though.
I got
That's
there.
what's nice about this is like you've relaxed, you've calmed, you found your space, you found your inner peace, you found your voice, who you are, how you project it. You found a great space for your message. Like that's why I wanted to second like people getting into your community, because your emails they're well thought out, but they're grounded in emotion. They're grounded in reality.
Right.
And the person who follows you, they know you as a professional, but they also know you as a person.
Yeah. And just from a business perspective, I'm consistent enough where somebody who's on the fence about working with me, that one email that comes out that might hit the right note may be what pushes them over to finally book with me, book a session with me or book a package with me. So multi-pronged approach, but the cornerstone of my business is my biweekly emails, thanks to you. But everything in my business is morphing over to the book side of things.
One thing I've heard so loudly, and I want to highlight this, and I don't know if people catch on to this as they've gone along, but obviously we started off together, but then beyond me, it wasn't like, oh, I worked with Jeff and I got my fundamentals and I got, and I went on. I've heard the word "we" from you so many times. I've heard the book consultant, the speaking signature talk consultant, coach, whatever. Like there's people along the way that you've worked with and are working with. You have a team. Talk about that a little bit, because that's such a big piece.
Right. So in the beginning, I thought I had to do everything myself. And by the way, you are very much like that. Like you do a lot. You are highly capable and you do a lot on your own. So I was afraid to hire other people in the beginning, but then I realized, I don't know why someone's calling me during this. Sorry about that.
Right.
That always happens. So I hired several other coaches. I took a class at MIT for neuroscience. I realized billing was not a strong suit for me. So I hired a bookkeeper eventually. Then I hired a social media manager. I had a VA part-time. A lot of people think you need to have a CRM. I didn't feel like I needed that because I have my MailChimp list. So I didn't do that. I do intake forms, but wherever I feel like I need the support, I hire it because I'm not supposed to be able to do everything on my own.
No.
And there's this, and there are so many money issues with people, and myself included. So I'm not, where you're afraid to spend money, but you can't be afraid to spend money when it's going to bring you forward, when it's going to help you move your business in a positive direction. And so I would challenge anybody that's afraid, well, I'm not going to spend that until I get this. That's maybe poke around with your thinking a little bit and say, how will this money, what's the return on investment if I can spend 5 hours doing this versus creating a post on Canva? Wherever your area is, I would say, don't be afraid to spend the money, and you're investing in yourself.
Yes. But also to elaborate on that, what you're doing, which is genius, is you're not just hiring coaches, like, and we're coaches. I support the coaching industry of anybody, right? But you're understanding what you need specifically and finding that person who specializes within that, a team to keep you on track and help you write the book, to help you design a signature talk, a bookkeeper to help with billing and blah, blah, blah. So you're finding out the spaces. The VA that you had was working on specific activities. Right. So it's finding areas where you require help. Who's the person or people that can help me with that specifically? And now let me bring them into my world.
That's true. And nothing is forever. So you're not married to these people. You work, with you. I think you have a 9-session package. Like you can do plug and plays, nothing is permanent. And I just feel like that's been such a benefit for me to help grow my business.
Yeah. So Donna, as we pull this together, for, I'd say, the newer coach who's in the midst of, where you were, call it 3 years ago, 3 years ago, who's watching at this saying like, I want to be like Donna. Because I know there's people like my clients will watch other success story interviews and like, I want to be like so-and-so. Right. And so I want to be like Donna. I want to have this book. I want to have a healthy income. I want to have 20 to 30 clients and have a schedule and become like you and have come to this space. What can you share with them?
Well, it's 4 years, right? And so it takes time. It takes patience. It takes a belief in yourself. It takes you being a little more gentle on yourself, which I was not the queen of in the beginning. And you probably remember that a little bit. Don't get lost in the sauce. You're here to help people, and you will help people if you stay focused on what it is. The reason that you got into this business, it doesn't happen overnight. It just doesn't happen overnight. And it is hard. I think you and I have had this conversation before, because if you're on Facebook, I help, coaches get to 6 figures in 3 easy steps. And you and I both have like some issue with that. There's no way around the work. But if you enjoy the work and you give yourself some grace, it's going to happen. Just stay with it, and if you have a down moment, and I had some, there's better days ahead. Not every day is like this. Some days are like this. So just be consistent and don't give up on yourself. Never mind your clients. Don't give up on yourself.
The first words out of your mouth, internally, I was cheering so loudly when I said, what do you have for them? And you're like, well, it's been 4 years. Like, it's been 4 years. Exactly. Yeah. Like, it's do the work. And this is, I've been bringing this into more of my work lately with my students, it's finding joy in the work.
Right.
You've got to find that this is the work. There's no way around the work, at least from what I teach fundamentally, right?
There's no way around the work.
Strategies. Yeah.
There's no way around the work. And to me, to be able to help people, I think in the beginning when I was working with people, I was very worried, just from a coaching perspective, that I couldn't help my clients. I almost over prepared for my sessions. I don't want to lose sight of why I do what I do, which is to help my clients in whatever capacity they need. But actually the work is on the client. I am the facilitator of the work. I need to give the space. I need to follow the protocols. Now, I don't always follow protocols to the letter of the law, because you adopt your own style.
Yeah.
But, we're here to help people. So you got to take care of yourself too, to make sure that you can help your clients.
Absolutely. Donna, where can people get a copy of this book?
Amazon. It's on Amazon, both as an ebook and as a paperback book. So I would go, and there's also a page on my website where you can, there's a tab for a book, and it will take you right to Amazon.
Definitely. Yes. So that's in the chat. And Donna, congratulations on this.
Well, thank you. You are written in my book in multiple places, and I would not be where I am today without you, Jeff. So I am
say that a lot, and
I do, but I mean it. I really mean it.
I know you do. It means a lot. And I will say this is where I get a little emotional too, is because, we love what we do. We work with clients, and I'm at a phase now of this business where I have people like you who have it's like kids that are grown up, like that are, because your kids are getting older now too. And they're growing up, and they're creating their own success, and they have their own style, and they're strong, and they're, when I say intelligent, not that they weren't, right? But like, you have your own life, you have your own business, and it's just so cool to see that.
Oh, I lost you.
Take that time. And now we get to see that. That's the joy that I've seen now with my clients and my students in this space. And then even back from personal training to my life coaching business. I was just on the phone with a person that I trained with. God, it was 25 years ago when I was a personal trainer or more. And I was on the phone. Now they want me to do something with their daughter. And it's as a coach, not as a personal trainer, right? Because they're on my emails. And so it's stay in the game long enough. And that's the reward that comes back to us as I'm
Yeah.
sure you're starting to see now too with some of your clients.
I am. I do a lot of, families, like they'll refer me to somebody else in the family, right? Yeah. So that is such a good point. But honestly, I think we have the best job in the world.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
thank you
So
so much for having me on today.
yes. And you know what? There's going to be another one in another X amount of years. There's going to be another book. There's going to be another milestone, and we're going to have you on here, and we're going to celebrate. We're going to talk it out and go from there. So we got some good people in the chat saying hello, insights, etc. Check out Donna's website, and Donna, thank you again for your time. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you guys. Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Hire
everyone.
Jeff.
Thank you.